How much of a game changer is this today? We were talking to Pomp a little bit earlier. He said he thought there was actually going to be less enthusiasm for these ETFs than there were for Bitcoin.
Sure. Listen, I think this is, one more step in the total adoption of crypto as an asset class for institutions, right? These ETFs make it easier for everyday Americans and institutions to participate in these ecosystems. And it'll lack some of the excitement because Bitcoin was the first time we did it, right? And it was Larry Fink deciding crypto was important. There was a whole narrative there. This is step two. I do think it's important. We think it'll be about 20% as 20% as many flows will go into the Ether ETF in the first 6 months that went into Bitcoin. Remember, the Bitcoin ETFs are now over $60-70 billion, right? And so significant money. And so it's definitely a positive. It's just not going to be the chaos that we saw around the Bitcoin ETF.
Trading today, the SEC approved ETF applications from 21 shares, Bitwise, BlackRock, Fidelity iShares, Benek, and Franklin Templeton, along with Invesco Galaxy. And joining us right now to talk about all of this and what it means for the crypto industry and what is now we'll describe as a milestone, another milestone. Anthony Pompliano is here, founder and CEO of Professional Capital Management. Pop, it's nice to see you.
Good to see you.
You think this is a game changer or not really? You seem less excited this morning than when you were here on Bitcoin Day.
Yeah, well, let's go look at the Bitcoin ETF. I think, historic thing, probably the best ETF launch in history. One of the interesting stats is that the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF has had more net flows than QQQ year to date. Right, so just massive flows there, over $500 million just yesterday alone. And so I think what a lot of people say is, well, that was the first one. Is the second one going to be as big? And I don't think that's true, right? If you just go and, before I came on, I looked at all the major news sites. People aren't talking about it as much. And so like the media attention, the hype, all that stuff isn't really there. And so it brings you to the question of why are people not talking about it as much? And I think part of the challenge for Ethereum is that the story isn't as clear. It's very clear with Bitcoin, right? It's digital gold. When we start talking about Ethereum, you start talking about a technology platform. There's a lot more competition, et cetera. But if you go and you talk to the people at Bitwise, they're launching ETH today. Yep. What they would tell you is, well, actually, there's diversification. People on Wall Street love that. And so maybe actually the benefit that Ethereum will have is just people say, well, I don't want to have just one. I want to have a couple of them. It's Bitcoin, it's Ethereum. Let me do like a 70-30 split, and that'll be good enough for it. And so I think that we really got to see what these flows are going to look like because the story isn't as clear. You're not going to get access to the staking. So the cash flow that people really like about Ethereum isn't available to these kind of ETF holders. And I think that the flows itself are not going to be nearly as big as Bitcoin. And so the question is, how much impact on prices is really going to have? These funds have 10, 15, $19 billion in them, right? I mean, these are real money that's moving into these things. What I do think is interesting about the Ethereum ETF approval, and probably the thing I've taken away the most, is less about Ethereum and more about the rest of the market. What this signals to me is that all of the altcoins are going to come to Wall Street. It may take a while. There may need to be some regulatory clarity. They may get treated a certain way, but these things are going to come to Wall Street. And so what went from a 0 to 1, is it going to be Bitcoin, is it not, is now going to be a crypto industry. And the reason why that becomes interesting is because people who have this portfolio model or portfolio approach are going to start to apply that to all of crypto.
For those that don't follow all of this,
yeah, it does not. One of the issues that I think the critics have with Ethereum is that the monetary policy mimics much closer to kind of the U.S. dollar, right? There are these periodic decisions as to whether the monetary policy is going to be more constrictive or not, how many are going to be available, et cetera. So again, the story isn't as clear. It's not as certain. What I do think is also interesting is that Ethereum long has said, hey, we're the smart contract platform, and they were the dominant one there. But now there's a lot of competition, right? It's not the fastest. It's not the cheapest. There's these other blockchains that have come forward. And so I actually am of the belief that there will be inflows to the Ethereum ETFs. The Ether price will go up, but it's just not going to be to the magnitude that people kind of are hoping for because of these other pressures. Last year, I bought Solana. It's outperformed. And so
you're now a Solana maximalist.
No. It's the second biggest position. And really the thought process is the Bitcoin position that we own, we're going to continue to hold. But there is an entire other universe there. And so the thought process being you want to be in the asset that is cheaper, faster, and likely going to receive more flows. And if you go and you look at DEX volume, right? Decentralized exchanges on Solana is actually eating into the market share of on Ethereum. And so we just think there's a lot more momentum. It's a smaller market cap asset and likely to outperform.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patreons. If you're not a part of the Patreons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And make sure you go follow and like the TikTok. And guys, every single video I've been doing, I keep telling the movie is getting better and better. And I think it can't get any better. They make it even better. The NWO has written an Oscar movie. Steve Mnuchin has to be on it. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now we have the launch of the Ethereum ETFs. And we know it's not going to get any type of mainstream media news like Bitcoin because we have so many distractions. But we also know when it comes to Ethereum and Ethereum's ecosystem, it has 100 times more use cases than Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin is sitting up high because the NWO used that as a narrative in order to get rid of the banks. Remember the narrative around Bitcoin? It was there to get rid of the banks and the powers that be since the 2007-2008 crash. But as we can see, the big banks and big corporations are now cheering Bitcoin and crypto on because they were behind it from the beginning. And that's why I tell you, always follow the money. At the beginning of this channel, when I first started, I did all the research for you so you could clearly see these big banks and big corporations were funding crypto from the beginning. But since we have this Ethereum launch, we have Mike Novogratz and Pomp on CNBC. We know how they like to do it. Bring the puppets on in. And we have Pomp says he sold all his Ethereum for Solana. And of course, that's a good short-term move, but JP Morgan has his hands all over Ethereum. Remember, Fed 2.0 is going to be on blockchain. But Pop talks about all the volatility that came to Bitcoin and crypto with all this news. The attempt on Trump, and then Biden dropping out, and now Kamala stepping in. And what is he blaming on? The algorithm. The algorithm is running all markets. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now we have Mike Novogratz on Kamala. And she steps in just a few months before the actual election. And nobody's making a big deal out of it. Not one mainstream media news channel was making a big deal out of this short period to run. And we know Kamala stands no chance. And J.D. Vance, one of the reasons why he was selected, because normally whoever wins Ohio wins the election. And remember, the president is selected, not elected. But guys, all these distractions, Trump, Biden, Kamala, is just a big distraction because we have Netanyahu here. And then also we just had Biden give up powers to Blinken and Yellen in regards to Ukraine and their recovery. That means, guys, the drums are about to get louder because now they can automatically fund this fourth industrial revolution. Remember, when the drums get louder, it's all about moving all this technology in. And everything that's going on in the Middle East, guys, it is biblical. But none of this is going to make your mainstream media. It's going to be about Biden getting old, Trump running, J.D. Vance, Kamala, and then her VP, while the real story is behind the curtain. And that's the takeover of the robots, algorithms, and drones running the economy without a human involved with crypto. Now they have money. And humanity will be going inside the metaverse getting that free money. But little do they know, that money is going to be programmable, telling you what, when, and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. And remember, it's biblical, the beast system. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Let's flip the screen around and show everybody Bitcoin, just where things stand right now. Curious, we sort of went up the mountain, we went down the mountain, we're climbing the mountain again a little bit. In terms of, if this is price discovery, what do you think is really happening?
First of all, we've been doing a lot of mountain climbing over the years, so I don't think there's anything new. What I do think is happening, though, if you watch over just the last 2 weeks of Bitcoin has been very sensitive to a lot of these geopolitical or kind of uncertain moments, right? If you go back and you look at President Trump's assassination attempt, Bitcoin on the news dropped immediately as soon as it was breaking that he was actually okay. Bitcoin ripped higher. If you go and you look last week or last weekend and you see Joe Biden going ahead and coming out and saying he's going to drop out of the race, Bitcoin again, as soon as there was news, drops, comes right back as soon as there's some certainty. He goes ahead and he endorses Harris. And so I think that these assets really are starting to kind of blend the line. It used to be the crypto industry and traditional finance. Now what you're starting to get is just an overall financial market.
I don't know what you're saying there exactly.
What do you mean?
So you're saying he's out and there was a hope that maybe it would be someone more electable than Kamala Harris, and then when you find out it's Kamala Harris, it goes back up?
It's all about certainty, right? So like when there's an assassination attempt, what ends up happening is the news breaks, hey, the potential president got shot. And so all of a sudden people are freaking out, prices drop. As soon as he's okay, price comes back. If you go and you look again at the announcement, hey, the current president is not going to seek re-election. There's uncertainty. What's going to happen? Who's going to endorse?
I would have thought former president gets shot, that could cause a civil war or something crazy could happen. Mm-hmm. You would actually think that if this is gold,
right, which is
gold and Bitcoin should actually go up in those moments. Yeah. And then when you actually realize that he's okay, you should be like, okay.
This is about the regulatory oversight.
No, I think that what people end up
But the same thing happened when it was Biden getting out. I mean, that's why it doesn't make sense.
But it's also, you think treasuries.
But I
think treasuries before gold now for safety. Don't you?
Yeah, I've said that for a long time.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is just think of it as human nature, right? When you hear a piece of news, right? So I was sitting eating. Somebody said to me, "Hey, President Trump was just shot." Right? Literally got a text message. I jump on Twitter, and you have this feeling, almost this like human nature takes over. You're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And then as soon as you realize, okay, I see the video, I see the news, etc. You kind of it looks like he's all right, etc. I think that markets react the same way. And what's really interesting is both of those situations happened on the weekend. Yeah. Stock market is closed. This is open.
Trade. But Andrew's right. You would think it would be a flight to safety, and it's not.
Well, ultimately it was. But I think that the initial reaction to a news like that is fear. And then you do the flight to safety. And so all that happened, by the way, in 15 minutes, right? But what we're talking about is kind of that initial shock of the news. And some of it may be algorithmic trading as well. Just, hey, negative trading, news, prices drop. Right. But I think that in both of those situations, Bitcoin was up 3% on Sunday after President Biden dropped out. And so I think that that asset specifically is starting to insert itself and becoming a signal for what is happening in the world.
But how much of that is just the rate?
Listen, I think that ship has come and gone. Right. I would have rather, like I said, had a process. Listen, I think two swing state governors with a centrist track record would have more represented where America is today. I fundamentally believe that. That doesn't mean Kamala Harris isn't going to have a good chance of winning. I mean, she has raised $110 million in 36 hours. I haven't seen a candidate do that. The Democratic Party is energized. People are energized. Women, the black community is energized. And so we'll see. For me, what's important is what she says in the next 100 days, right? She had one of the most liberal voting records in the Senate, 99 out of 100. That's not where America is today. So she's going to have to pivot, right? There's a big difference between being a president and a senator. And so if she shows up as presidential, reads the temperature of the country, and moves to the center, I think the Democrats are going to have a really good election. You will see her VP pick, if it's going to be Mark Kelly or Josh
Shapiro.
Josh Shapiro. Right. Those are all good steps. My only advice to the campaign, not that they take my advice, was that if I was her, because economics are so important, I would pre-announce the Secretary of Treasury. And I know Trump is thinking about doing that. And so, listen, we're going to have 8 years of unbelievably complicated. We've got debt to GDP, deficits.
Right. Who would you like to see as a Treasury Secretary under a President Harris, and then who would you like to see under a President Trump?
Listen, because of our, you had the SIBO guy on, the OMB guy on before. We are in crises, right? We're in a four-alarm fire with debt to GDP at 130%, with $1 trillion of debt every 100 years, and neither party's talking about it. And so I think it's essential that you get someone of global stature. I mean, Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon's name keep getting kicked around. They could be the Secretary of Treasury for either party, right? These guys are good Americans. They're patriotic, and they stay in the center. And we need someone who thinks about the country first and is less political, because it is an unbelievably complicated job.
Speaking to him the other day after he made his decision about not seeking re-election, what he's intensely focused on is the work that remains over these next 6 months to continue the efforts, the work that we've been doing, particularly trying to bring peace to the Middle East, ending the war in Gaza, putting that region on a better trajectory, continuing to deal as effectively as he has been with the ongoing aggression by Russia against Ukraine, and making sure we continue to do everything we can to strengthen Ukraine.
Purpose of Netanyahu's trip, obviously he was invited to give this big speech to Congress, but what do you think he's trying to achieve?
Hi, Jemana. I think he will certainly be there to try and shore up support of Israel, given everything that's happened with the country since October the 7th. He may be trying to get more robust measures against Iran, for example, from the United States.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Sonali Basak. Sonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.